Hello everyone, welcome to Talking Over Tea. Today, Amelia and I are going to be doing a 2020 book wrap-up. We'll be answering some questions about the books we read in 2020.
So we made some of these questions based off of our 2020 year in books thing that Goodreads makes, which we always like to look at the end of the year. So we just thought it would be nice to share that with other people. To start off, we're going to be talking about the longest book we read this year. So mine was the Bible. I did a plan to read it from January 1st to December 31st. Yeah, this was my first time reading the whole Bible. I was very glad that I did that. I'm very happy to now say that I've read the whole thing.
Mine is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. It was 759 pages. I don't have much to say about it. I've read it a lot.
Oh yeah, and the Bible is 1,042 pages.
The next question is, what was the shortest book you read? Mine was Billy Budd Sailor by Herman Melville. And it was 96 pages. This one was really hard to get through, and I actually ended up listening to it because it was quite confusing and the language was very hard. But if you are wanting to hear the Billy Budd story, then I recommend listening to the Focus on the Family radio drama. I really liked that, and I wanted to read the book because of that, but then it was really hard.
My shortest book was Sarah Plain and Tall by Patricia McClacken. This was 58 pages, and that's why I read it. The only reason I read this is because it was super short and I wanted to get an extra book in. I don't remember liking it that much. I mean, it was fine for like a younger person. The next question we have is, what was your top 3 favorite books of the year? My first book is A Tale of Two Cities. I've talked about this book before in a different video. I read it for school and I ended up really liking it. It's my favorite Charles Dickens book so far, and yeah, it's set during the time of the French Revolution, and it has to do a lot with that, and also with England. Other book is The Scarlet Pimpernel.
Oh no.
Oh, do you have that one?
Yeah.
This was a reread for me, and I just really liked it even more the second time through. I just thought it was very interesting and gripping, I guess. It was also set during the time of the French Revolution. And my last book was called A Time to Die by Nadine Brandes. I was recommended this book by my friend, as well as I had just seen it a lot, and I ended up really liking it. It is a dystopian, so the main thing is that everyone has like a clock and it tells them the day they're gonna die. But the main character didn't have one because she was sharing with her brother. They only had one. And if you don't have a clock, it's like a bad thing. It was like about how she didn't have it and she had to be like sentenced to a different place. That was like scary. I ended up really liking that, even though I wasn't sure if I would or not.
My 3 books are books that I hadn't read before, so they're not necessarily my most favorite books of the year, but I wanted to do new books instead of just my old favorites over and over again. One of my favorite books was also The Scarlet Pimpernel, and like she said, it was just a fun, interesting book. It just kept me gripped, and I want to read it again because I actually listened to it, so I want to read it this time. My next book is The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin. Amelia actually recommended this to me, and it's a mystery. It's kind of hard to describe. It's like a bunch of strangers are brought together into to solve a mystery about who killed someone.
Yeah, and it was like set up by someone, right?
Yeah, it was all set up and nobody really knows what's happening, but it was just really interesting and fun, and I really, really liked it. My third book is Ella Minnow P, and this is an interesting one. It's not the most amazing book in the world, but it has such an interesting idea. It is about a town or an island. I think it's an island. It's about a place where they really love the alphabet, and they have the alphabet like hanging up in their town, and the letters keep falling off, and so every time a letter falls off, the people in charge decide that they're not allowed to use that letter. So as the book progresses, like, letters keep being taken out, and so it gets harder and harder to understand what's happening. But it's just a really interesting idea, and I really liked that. The next question is our least favorite books of the year. My first least favorite book is called The Beautiful Ones, and I think it was supposed to be a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I didn't really know anything about this book when I read it, but it was just really boring. It wasn't very interesting, and it just started being bad and kind of things happening that I didn't really like, so yeah, that was one of my least favorites. And then the next one was the Kingdom series by Chuck Black. And it's not exactly that I hated it or anything. I only read 3 of the books, but they were just a retelling of the Bible, and I'd kind of just rather read the Bible than read the retelling of it. So it was just kind of boring.
So my first book is Selected Stories and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. I really wanted to like this, but each story was just kind of hard to understand. The writing was kind of, his style was a little boring. And like some of them I liked more than others, but it seemed like every single story he had was just a buried alive story. And those can get kind of old. So yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of this. That doesn't mean I won't try anything by Edgar Allan Poe again, but this isn't necessarily something I'd recommend. And my next one is Samara's Peril by J.L. Knight. I really didn't want to dislike this, and it wasn't even that I disliked it that much, but nothing really seemed to happen that much. Things just kind of were too easy in the end, and it just seemed kind of repetitive of other books and stuff. I think I will continue with the series, maybe not like anytime soon, but this was not a very good book for me this year. The next question we have is, what was your most disappointing book of the year? So like one that you might have had higher hopes for and then turned out not that good. So mine was 450 from Paddington by Agatha Christie. I did like this. I thought it was pretty interesting, but I just had higher expectations for like the best mystery writer in the world or whatever. I still want to try other ones. I'm sure there's better. I'm not gonna like everything she has. I definitely want to try another one by her soon.
My most disappointing book was called Woven in Moonlight, and I was drawn to this book because it was about not taking revenge, and I kind of hate revenge stories, so I was interested. I was wanting to read that, but then when I read it, it wasn't necessarily bad. It was actually okay, but it just was not what I was expecting, and it wasn't quite so much about not taking revenge on people and stuff. I don't know, I just didn't really like it as much as I wanted to. The next question is, how many pages did we read? And I read 29,723 pages.
And I read 15,546. I'm gonna try for a lot more this new year. The next question is, how many books did you read? I read 52.
And I read 88. I wanted to get to 100 so bad, but I just couldn't do it.
And I did meet my goal of 50 and going a little over that. But I'm going to try for 60 this year. We'll see how it goes.
So the next questions are, what was the most popular and least popular books we read on Goodreads? And my most popular was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows.
And mine was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
And then the least popular was John Bunyan by Sandy Dangler. It's just like a really short biography of John Bunyan, who wrote The Pilgrim's Progress.
And mine is also a biography, but it's on Florence Nightingale. It's called Faithful Friend, The Story of Florence Nightingale by Beatrice Siegel.
This one was okay. It wasn't like amazing, but it was cool to learn about him.
Yeah. This, like, the book wasn't that amazing in itself, but I did like learning about Florence Nightingale and like her going during the Crimean War and all that stuff. So yeah, it was interesting. So the next question is, what was your most surprising book? So which one did you have like kind of low expectations for but ended up being pretty good? And mine was Treasure Island. Yeah, I was just pretty surprised at how much I liked this book. I didn't think I would really like a pirate treasure hunt book, but I ended up liking it more than I thought, though it was kind of hard to get through at the end. But I was surprised how much I liked this one.
My most surprising book was Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I had heard so many mixed reviews on it. Like, some people thought it was amazing and some people hated it, so I was kind of thinking I would hate it. But I actually really liked it. It was very different from any Harry Potter books, since it was a play and it was not really about Harry. So it was kind of strange, but I did really like it.
The next question is, how many and what nonfiction books did we read this year? So I actually read quite a few. I read 8, which is kind of a lot for me. So yeah, I read this Florence Nightingale book, and then I also read this book on George Mueller that was written by Janet and Jeff Binge. I thought the book was pretty good. It's for pretty little kids, but it gave a good overview and like his life when he was younger and stuff. So yeah, I read this for a project for school, but I ended up really liking it. I also read Thomas Edison, The Man Who Lit Up the World. I also read this for a project for school. I thought the book was pretty good. It had a lot of pictures and went into a lot of detail. I also read A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis. I definitely want to read this again later. I didn't exactly relate with all of it. It was kind of interesting, so yeah, I want to read that one again. And I read The Life of Our Lord by Charles Dickens, which is just basically his retelling of the story of Jesus for his children. I liked this, but again, like Maddie said, I would rather just kind of read the Bible. And I read Do Hard Things by Alex and Brett Harris. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. There's a lot of mixed reviews if you look on Goodreads and stuff, but I really liked it. And then I also read Perfectly Unique by Annie F. Downs. Yeah, I liked that one. It was about, it's been a very long time.
like embracing who you are, like not shaming yourself for how you look and stuff, pretty much.
Yeah. And then the Bible, which I already talked about, I read. Yeah, those were mine.
I only read 5, but that is 5 more than I would usually read. Like I said, I read the John Bunyan biography, and then I read the autobiography of George Mueller, which I talked about in another video. Dang, it was a little hard to get through, but it was really interesting. And then Letters to a Diminished Church, which was really good. This was another one. I didn't understand a lot of it, but it's a collection of like articles and stuff, and some of them I just really, really liked. And then I also read Perfectly Unique that Amelia read, and The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom, which was really, really good. The last question is what we wished we'd done differently in 2020 and what we're going to try to do in 2021. So I really want to read more nonfiction. Like, I've only read 5 nonfiction books last year, so I really want to read more biographies and poetry. I guess poetry isn't nonfiction, but I would like to read poetry because I never read poetry. And I also would like to select my books more carefully and not just pick random books that I have no idea about, but actually like think about the books that I want to read and get recommendations.
So one of the things I wish I'd done differently in 2020 was I wish I hadn't kept going with books that I wasn't really interested in and just stopped reading them, because that would have saved me time that I could have read something else that I'd wanted to. So I'm going to try to do that in 2021, and I want to try to read more during the day and give myself more time before bed to read so I can just get more books read at night and during the day. And I want to try to read more biographies and, like I said, poetry and nonfiction books, and just books that I wouldn't normally always read. And I want to read books that I'm actually interested in, which has seemed like I didn't do that much in 2020. Like, I kind of just picked up something just because I got it at the library, not really even caring about what it was about. So I want to try to find more books that I actually am interested in reading. So that was our 2020 wrap-up of books. We look forward to seeing what we're going to read this new year of 2021 and all of the posts and videos we want to make about those books. And we hope you enjoyed watching this video, and we'll see you in the next 2 weeks with a new post. Bye!
And mine was Billy Budd Sailor by Mark Twain, by Herman Melville. Oh no!
Sarah Plain and Tall by Patricia McLachlan.
Patricia.
What'd I say?
Matricia. You did! You said Patricia! You're looking back.
This book was...
Another favorite one.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
5 stars.
Wow. Oh.
This isn't making any Wow. And
we want to talk about the books that we started, finished, and So now we want to talk. So now we want to talk about the series. It's on the bottom. Oh, that's not the bottom.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Oh, what am I doing? I don't need this.
You own.
And then my next one is the Weaver trilogy by.
I think we're amazing.